So you might have some questions about Task 4, which is titled Leadership, Family Engagement, and Community Involvement. This video provides some responses to questions specific to Task 4. This is Tom. Tom is currently a graduate student working to earn his principal's license. He's about to start Task 4 in the Massachusetts PAL program, and he has scheduled another follow-up meeting with his advisor. I am his advisor, Professor H. I am also guiding Tom through this process. So listen in on our conversation.
Thanks for meeting with me, Professor. Can we review what Task 4 is all about?
Sure. So let's start with the purpose of Task 4. The task is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your leadership skills in improving family engagement and community involvement in support of student learning. So this involves doing the following. First, form a working group that includes family or community representatives. Second, assess gaps and opportunities for family and community involvement in support of student learning in a priority area. Third, develop a plan to address these. And fourth, implement one strategy from the plan. The priority area focus can be related to a specific student academic performance issue or to health, emotional, social needs that impact student learning. As part of this task, you're going to work collaboratively with school leaders and staff and family and community representatives to align their work to a student learning or student health or social need priority that impacts student learning. So, you're going to demonstrate your skills working with others, particularly family and community members. You're going to assess ways to extend support for student learning through improved family or community engagement, and plan several strategies that will address the need and implement and monitor one strategy.
So how should I select this priority area? Could it be the same priority area I've used in a previous MA-PAL task?
Oh, sure. And in fact, it probably should be the same. But the focus is going to be adjusted and probably slightly different to address ways of involving families and community directly. Whatever priority area you choose, you're going to need to provide a rationale for your choice, just like you've done with the other tasks.
So who should be involved in this task, and how should I invite them to participate?
Okay, so you need to decide this based on who is the most relevant for the priority area. Whose interests pertain most to this area? The task's instructions suggest that you have at least 2 or 3 key school people, like teachers, 2 or 3 family members, 2 or 3 community members, if it's relevant, and others who would be interested in and who support this work. To figure out who you're going to invite, I suggest that you talk with your school leaders about who might be promising potential group members and where and when would be the best time to meet. So once you've got these suggestions and this logistical information, you can contact them by phone or email, introduce yourself, and explain what you're doing. Be ready to answer some questions about what their role is going to be, where and when they would meet, how often, and the goal of the group work. I think you're going to be surprised at how pleased and willing people are to become involved. Also, the initial individuals who you speak to may have some suggestions of other staff or parents or community members who might be good to include. So think about the group's composition. Your group should be purposefully put together to best support the investigation of gaps and opportunities for improved involvement. You've got plan development and implementation of one strategy, and then as you progress, be mindful of how you keep everyone, including the school leaders in your group, engaged and informed about the work. Your group should be able to provide you with feedback about how you do this plan and how to pilot the strategy.
Okay, so let's say I've got all this data about the priority area I'm going to focus on in my family and community engagement plan, and I have my work group established. What would you recommend I keep in mind as we build this plan together?
Well, before you start your plan, you need to find out what's already in place and determine what works or could be improved, and then what gaps exist, particularly for families and for community representatives. So you're going to need to understand the landscape of outreach and engagement that your school is already doing or has already done, and then see if you can gather evidence on family or community engagement and participation in relevant programs or services. Or you might see if there's a family feedback survey, and you can look at those results on school communication and student learning support. You're going to need to have this information on hand as a basis for planning with your group. So, the group is going to help you obtain information that should work with you on analyzing the information to identify gaps and opportunities for improvement. Look at this information along with the documentation you have on the priority area. Where is the relationship between the priority area and what engagement strategies, if any, exist, particularly for the target student group? Then, together with your group members, explore how improving family engagement or community involvement would positively contribute to student learning, directly or indirectly. You might need to talk with others in your district, community, or elsewhere about strategies that might work or that have worked in the past. Or you might find ideas in published research or books and articles on best practice. Once you and your group have some ideas, you're going to need to develop a plan. It goes without saying that the plan should clearly explain how the proposed strategies will improve family or community engagement and how this in turn will benefit student learning. Additionally, your plan will include more information that demonstrates that it is a good fit to your school and shows an understanding of the context based on the resources and roles and responsibilities identified, as well as how to get others to support the plan's implementation. It must also include a realistic timeline and a method of evaluation. The task description asks that you include in your documentation an explanatory map of how certain policies and practices will improve specific outcomes. We refer to this as the theory of action. This should directly inform the development of the strategies included in the plan. The goal of Task 4 is to establish a meaningful opportunity for families and community members to support and enhance student learning. Look at current research and best practices for appropriate strategies that are responsive to the school's priority area. And remember, it also has to be feasible within the school and community context. So these strategies might include changes in policies, improvement to or adjustment of existing practices, or the development of brand new programs and practices. So think about strategies that foster an inclusive culture, that go beyond just communicating information. You want strategies that will strengthen the capacity of families or community members to become active partners in student learning. You also want strategies that are culturally responsive to help develop that cultural responsiveness as well.
And so what about the strategy I will need to pilot? What should be the scope and how long should it take?
This is actually a really tough question to answer. The task description indicates that the length for task completion will vary. So talk with your work group members and school leaders about which strategy to use for your pilot, how big the pilot should be, and how long you can run the pilot. Your strategy might be a one-time event, or it could be a group of parents or other family members that you bring together to look for a new way of working with a local community agency over time. Or it might be something that's reoccurring. The key is to pick something that's relevant to the priority area and can be integrated into the school and potentially sustained over time.
Now, once I'm ready to turn in my artifacts, what should I use to complete my self-assessment? What guidelines should I follow?
So let's look at the commentary section of Task 4. It highlights the topics to consider and include in your self-assessment. You will need to focus on the leadership skills you developed and then used during your completion of Task 4. Remember also that you're seeking feedback from others throughout the planning and pilot processes about your role and the work you accomplished together. You're presenting this in your third artifact, but you can also draw on this for your self-assessment.
Now, the Task 4 document reads, Task 4 assesses a candidate's capacity to improve family engagement and community involvement. How exactly will I be assessed?
There are 3 rubrics at the end of Task 4's description that explain the indicators and levels of proficiency that will be assessed when scorers review your work products. Read these over carefully. The rubric components will give you a clear indication of what is expected for Task 4. Let's look at Rubric 4B as an example. It assesses your implementation of one strategy. Scorers will review your second artifact for how well you describe your implementation steps, roles, resources, and challenges. You will be scored as exceeding if you provide a coherent, detailed explanation and show how family and community members benefited from or participated in the strategy and how you shared responsibility. I suggest that you use the exceeding rubric descriptions as your guide as you do the work.
Great. Thanks so much, Professor H. I think I'm ready to tackle Task 4. I'll be back in a few weeks to give you an update and also to seek your advice as I get the work group ready.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.